Drum Corps International is one of the highest levels of musical excellence that one can achieve. With thousands of auditions and marchers each year comes thousands of questions, and Reddit will only get you so far. So who better to ask than the people who have done it time and time again? That's exactly what I did, and this is what they had to say.
I heard about DCI. I had a lot of instructors in high school that marched DCI or were aware of it. So I'd say probably eighth when I was in eighth grade or something.
Throughout high school, I really started investing myself into color guard at all the time. It's all I wanted to do, and my coaches were like, you should look into marching.
Just see a random Instagram post and it said, it was from Heatwave, which I hadn't heard of at the time, and I was, because I'm from Indiana, they're based out of Florida. They said bass drum spots open, and I was like, well, I'm a bass drummer, so let me message them. So I sent in a video, and they gave me a contract, and so I spent my first summer with them.
My band directors would always play videos of DCI shows every year, and so that's how I first heard about it. I would always watch those and be like, whoa, this is kind of cool. I think those videos are kind of what made me want to do it, because they would also have us watch all of finals at the end of the marching band season, and so we would watch all the finalist groups, and they would just really inspire me to want to do more than just high school marching band.
I marched Shadow, which is an open class corps that is no longer in existence. They only contracted high schoolers. I marched with them in 2019, and I marched Troop in 23.
So the first summer I auditioned for the Colts, and I sent in a video because it was the COVID thing, and it's funny to think about, because if I got cut from Colts, I probably would have just stopped marching.
It was really small corps, really small, maybe 40 or 50 people. That was in 2019. After that, it took a couple of years because of the pandemic. I actually auditioned for the Troopers in 2022. I thought I did really well at the audition, and then I got cut, and they said, yeah, man, you just don't play like us. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So then I sent old James Sparling a message. He was the battery coordinator at Phantom at the time. And I was like, hey, man, I don't know if you still had open spots, but I'd be interested in auditioning. So he said, yeah, man, prepare these parts and we'll see you at the camp. So I remember, because it was the weekend of the Dayton Regional in 2022, that I finally got my contract for Phantom. And so did my friend Ben.
I marched the Colts in 21. That was this short summer. And then I marched Cavaliers in 22 and 23. They're two very different corps, but also similar. I don't know, they're both Midwestern corps. We worked hard at both corps. That's definitely something that compares. To compare the two summers, my two experiences with the two corps, I'd say my summer at the Colts was harder for me, but it was my first summer doing drum corps. So even though it was the shorter experience and I'm playing an easier book, it was just so hard for me because it was so new and I was so unprepared going into it. But really my summer at the Colts prepared me to be successful at the Cavaliers and wherever else I marched.
I was actually talking to Russell Wharton about going to the Cavaliers, and then randomly, after my friend Adrian goes back and forth about where we should go march together, he's like, so Boston then, right? And I'm like, dude, if we're going to march somewhere, let's do it. Stop going back and forth. So he gave me Colin McNutt's info, and I messaged him. He immediately called me and is like, you've been on my list for months, and after what I've heard about you at Phantom, so I was like, oh, great.
I marched Battalion, which was an open class drum corps, in 21, also the short season. And then I marched Blue Knights in 22 and Mandarins in 23. The differences for the corps for me, I can explain a little more, I feel like, because I actually have that open class experience compared to world class experience. Open class is definitely, obviously, what people would say is more of a learning tool or experience to get you into world class drum corps. They always had troubles finding enough staff or qualified staff to teach open class corps. I don't know if that's issue everywhere, but I know that's especially an issue at Battalion, where it's hard to find staff compared to like a world-class corps like Blue Knights or Mandarins, where a lot of people want to teach there, a lot of people want to march there. So more people will generally help out compared to open class corps. I think that's like the biggest thing that I notice is the difference, because we sometimes didn't have enough volunteers at Mandarins to help at Battalion. So we wouldn't even have like enough like food sometimes, or we would end up having to have like the members like help make food and stuff too. The maturity of ensembles is like the biggest difference that I noticed, like through the 3 stages that I kind of went through, because Blue Knights was semifinal, Mandarins made finals, and then obviously Battalion was open class. So just seeing the levels of that through the membership, where it was like more and more experienced as you go, and more like treated like adults as you go through the seasons.
A person looking to march for drum corps, how should they go about picking the right corps for them?
I think there's kind of like 2 main things that I did. One, like watch all the videos that exist of the group, especially like the recent years. I think the second half, that's like one half of the equation, just like what do you like from the corps that you see. And then another half of the equation is just like talking to members that, or staff that have like gone through those corps, and that's what I did. So like reaching out to members, reaching out to staff, and just like having a conversation about them, asking about, like I remember calling Russell, like the base tech at the Cavaliers, before I auditioned there, and like I had like a list of questions before auditions, and I just like went through them, and because there were some things I wasn't sure about, some like, because you hear different things from other people that aren't part of that corps, but hearing it from someone who's like been there, I don't know, makes all the difference.
Watch videos, watch shows, like learn like what style do you like, what show style do you like. From there, just like engaging with that community and seeing like do you fit with them, and like reaching out. Honestly, like stalk a little bit, like go to like that your favorite corps Instagram, and then like look for vets and alumni, and just ask them like, hey, like what was it like what was your experience here, and like why did you choose to go march there, and like see if your values align with theirs.
Yeah, the schedules are long for drum corps. I mean, it's all day, every day for like 80 plus days. At least you have like 3 blocks of 3 to 4 hours that you're rehearsing a day, with meal breaks in between, an hour about for each of them. And it's just that rinse and repeat all day, every day.
A lot of people like find tour easier because like you rehearse less because you're traveling and you have shows and time off. In terms of rest and break, it depends on the corps. Cavaliers had a free day once a week in spring training, every Tuesday.
It seems like really physically challenging, like you're out in the sun for so long. But I think that makes it even more mentally draining. You're just constantly working and pushing yourself way past anything that you thought you could do. And it's just so much mentally.
For people like horn players, a lot of the morning ends up being like a visual block, no playing. Then they have subs in the afternoon and stadium time just with the brass, and then evening ends up being ensemble. However, for percussion, you typically wake up 8 to 9 is usually breakfast. 9 to so at the Boston Crusaders, for example, 9 to 1 was first block, and we would do a couple hours of subs. Usually wouldn't do any movement in the morning. We'd work on exercises and stuff like that, work on some show chunks and subs, and then that's when you get together. We'd play a lot of like our lot tunes morning block when at the Boston Crusaders. It was a lot of, like Spanks and Reds and all that stuff.
The only auditions I've ever been to were one-day auditions, which is like truly the scariest, because weekend-long auditions you get more time. But even then, auditions are super short. Like you learn a ton. I'm not entirely well-versed on the drumline and brass side of it, but at least in the color guard world, you have at least 3 different things you have to learn: dance, flag, and weapon. And you have to do them all within like a day or maybe 2. And it's very stressful. So you're going to be learning a ton of information. They teach you technique exercises, choreo exercises. Sometimes you have to learn new technique. And so, like, just being a sponge is like the best advice that I would ever give, is just like they're going to give you so much information and you just have to pick up on as much as possible with a smile on your face. Like, never, ever, ever let them know that you are stressed. Even they know that you're stressed. Just like, don't show it. Like, be confident.
In terms of what to expect, I think a good amount of music focus, probably more music focus, and a little bit of visual to see if, like, I don't know, you can hang more or less. Video auditions are like more of a thing now. I would recommend to avoid doing a video audition as much as possible. Like, go to the camp, like, get, like, experience the camp, experience the culture, ask the staff, get them to know you. So much better than seeing a video.
On day 3, at the sometime near the end of the first block or the beginning of the second block, they'll typically catch up with you, talk about the weekend, and then tell you whether you are cut, called back, or contracted.
So my parents helped me pay for my first summer. By help me pay, I mean they paid for all of it. But I've paid for like every single season after that on my own, and I don't know, just work and save. And I've been fortunate enough that, like, when I'm at home, like when I'm not doing drum line, I'm living at home, so I'm not having to pay rent, which is a big deal because I save a good amount of money doing that, living at home. If you reach out to the Corps, you make that they have like help for you. I've applied for like different scholarships too. I got like a scholarship last year for the mix, and alumni will help out. Sometimes like alumni will like sponsor you.
If you are proactive about scholarships, there's tons out there for both DCI and WGI. There are some that are broad spectrum for anybody in DCI. There are also scholarships for specific corps, or there's like specific like drummer scholarships. Like if you're a drummer in DCI, you can get a scholarship for that.
I remember like the summer when I was paying it for myself for the first time. Like the two things that I was told is like, one, like if you're struggling with your finances, like let the Corps know like early on. The later they find out, the less they can help you. So talk with your Corps. Like, money should not be the reason that you don't march a Corps. I think there's like 3 parts of a drum corps season. There's like early move-ins, which is like the first week, and then there's like spring training, which is when you're at like the one housing site forever and you're just like getting the show together, things like that. And then there's like on tour.
At Troopers this past summer, we had 3 buses, and you got a seat on that bus and you stayed on that bus the whole time. So you got to make it your own little home, and that was super cute. You have bus rides that are like 6-7 hours long in the middle of the night. You're just exhausted, and people are too close to you, and you're like too sweaty, and it's just not very fun. Or you can have moments that are like, well, you're watching the Barbie movie for the 15th time because that's what everyone voted on, and you're like just having the time of your life because you're so delirious at this point. Or it can be like a 15-minute bus ride to the show site. Your hair is not done, your makeup's not done, and like you're freaking out. Or we would all have like a manifestation session right before the show. We'd all be like, I will catch my toss. I will catch my toss, and do that over and over. There's just so many different like moments and environments that you can have on that bus. I just couldn't put it into one sentence, you know? Like, I know it's the cliche answer, but it's like, I have met so many amazing people, like people that I will like in the future invite to my wedding and like party with, and I meet up with them at like other events. Like I met up with a ton of us at WGI this past season, and like just those lifelong friendships are like everything. You're never gonna like regret just trying. And I think that like if you just go for it, like you will be astounded by all of the amazing things that come from it.